Morning everyone, welcome to another video. My name is Jan Kilstra and I'm a dairy farmer from Saskatchewan, Canada. We milk about 340 cows, all cows together. We have about 1,000 head and we're gonna start feeding them this morning. As you can see by the title of this video, it is cold outside. So outside right now it is minus 36. With the wind chill, it is well below minus 45. So it is brutal cold outside. It's hard on cows, it's hard on equipment, it's hard on humans. But we gotta get out there, get feeding. We got herd health this morning, so the vet is gonna come and pregnancy check the milk herd, so we gotta get out there and get some feed in the barn a little earlier than usual to make sure the cows are all locked up so he can do that. Gonna start out by getting the equipment started, let it warm up a little bit. We'll start the New Holland and we'll just let that run inside the shop. This thing, it's a 2009, I believe. It's got no diesel exhaust fluid, but it burns so clean that you can just run it inside the shop and it doesn't matter. Then we're gonna start this guy, back it out and bring it to the silage pits. Wagon's in the pit. That is our feed mill. I don't know how well you guys can see it, but the fog from the barn that's getting pumped out of the chimneys is just coming straight through the grain legs and the whole feed mill. Looks pretty cold. Well, check that out, folks. Some northern lights even this morning. Pretty cool. Those are some pretty good northern lights this morning. They're dancing, that's for sure. That's our first load of the morning. It's for corrals 2 and 3. And once this is dumped, we're gonna start our milk cow load. The toughest parts when it gets so cold is hydraulic lines. I'm gonna open the gate so you guys will just see how slow it starts moving. So it's opening up, now it speeds up a little bit, and this wagon is probably still a little bit warm from when I was sitting in the shop 20 minutes ago. If it sits outside for too long, everything starts to go slow and it gets tough. We just dumped that load in the corrals. Now we're back in the pits. Gonna hop in the wheel loader, start filling the wagon with silage. Now this thing's been sitting still for 20 minutes maybe, as we load the silage, then we put the grain, let it mix and dump. So it's gonna be moving slow with the bucket to begin with. You just gotta take it easy. If you hop in there and it's been sitting there for half an hour, you just yank on the joystick, try to lift the bucket up full speed, put some RPM to it, some oil pressure. That's when you're blowing hydraulic lines and your morning just gets a lot longer. So we're gonna try not to do that this morning. Okay, that feed wagon and the tractor is right on the other side of this overhead door. We have 3 overhead doors that we gotta drive through, 2 in our main freestall barn, and then the other in the pack barn. We just drive in and then we gotta back out of that one. That one's the toughest, because as you guys can see behind me, this is what the barn looks like now. And it gets way worse when we open those doors and introduce that cold air into the hot, humid barn. So it's always tough pulling through, but we're gonna open all the doors manually from the inside, make sure they go up and down. Because if you do this with the door remote from the tractor and the door is just slipping on the belt, you just smoke that belt and break it like that. So we're gonna manually open all these doors. This is the second door, the south overhead door. Finished the herd health. It went incredibly successful. 63 out of 68 animals were pregnant, so that's 92 to 93% positive. There was about 15 rechecks in there though, so those are pretty guaranteed to be pregnant. Kind of bumps your numbers up a little bit, but still 92 to 93% of the animals we checked today were pregnant. Pretty insane. Probably our single best herd health of the entire year. So that's an excellent way to end the year. Now I'm gonna go and check our overhead doors. I noticed one when I was checking them this morning had a lot of ice buildup in the rails on the corners of the door. So we're gonna go chip it out. Well, I was about to go and chip ice at those doors and there's a calf on the calving pack. So me and Neline are gonna grab it and she's gonna feed it and take care of it. I specifically went right away and grabbed her because otherwise I have to feed that calf.
That's bull, I have to feed it anyway. She's touching you.
Well, that's a little baby we just took off of the straw pack. Healthy heifer calf. And it came out of a first calving heifer, so this should be a pretty nice heifer calf. Well, you're just going crazy, aren't you? This is our problem door, and you can see underneath it's about an inch off of the ground, which is a massive problem, and that's because it's full in the rails on the sides. I don't know, all this frost kind of falls down. It just builds up down there. It doesn't let the door seal all the way, and then you get the cold air coming in here, and then you get moisture from the ceiling dropping down on the cold floor, and you get ice. So, oh, look at all that ice. Nasty. Now we're gonna throw some of this ice melt salt in the corners and all along where the door actually touches the concrete. And now you guys can see that door is sealing properly. We're at one end of our freestall barn, and you can see one cow right there and literally nothing else. The feed wagon's about to pull through. I figured I'd show you guys just how much visibility there actually is, or isn't. We're about 20 feet away from the door. There he goes. See how little visibility there actually is in these barns when you're pulling through with that feed wagon. It's definitely a tough job. This is the calf we just grabbed out. Neline gave it a nasal vaccine already. You can see the blue around her nostril. And she's gonna get her first feeding of colostrum pretty quick here. Cute little bugger. Shivering a bit, but this calf room is actually pretty warm, so she'll warm right up after she dries off probably. There's a heater right there, so this room is kept at, I believe, 15 to 20 degrees Celsius. Pretty warm. Oh yeah. Last thing I'm doing right before lunch is checking the water bowls in our corrals. The most important thing, we're making sure that the heater element in there didn't break and that there's still water in there exposed. We normally never have to chip ice, and that's because there is heater elements in all 5 of our water bowls out here. Second thing we're looking for, can the cows still get access to the water bowls? You'll see ice builds up quite a bit around them. So this is one of the water bowls. You can see all the ice that builds up around it. There's still tons of exposed water, but I'm just gonna chip a little bit of ice away from one of the corners because it is getting a little bit tight for these bigger Holstein ladies. This is our dry cow corral, so we wanna make it easy on these ladies. This water bowl right here is the worst one that I've seen so far. They're definitely not drinking out of this end anymore. They just can't get their nose down to the water. They are still able to reach it out of here, but barely. So I'm just gonna clear this whole side up. So that's what we got the one water bowl looking like. Just clear up the one side. You can see all the layers over time, how they formed. And you know, pretty much after minus 20, they build up steady. And you gotta keep hacking chunks like that off of these things. But again, it's not so bad because the water is warm. That heat element in there keeps it all thawed out. It's just when they drink, they drip water and they build up the ice around it. We're in the milking parlor this afternoon, and all things considered, it is one of the best jobs for a day like today. It's pretty nice in the parlor. The ventilation in here keeps the air fresh. It's not as bad as you'd think with all the cows in a small confined area. Those fans above us are getting rid of most of that humid air, and you're nice and warm. There's not supposed to be anything special for today's afternoon shift, but you never know what's gonna happen. Milking is going steady on the other side of this wall. I gotta change some chemicals here for our wash systems. and even our iodine. I got 3 chemical totes I want to change out, and then our iodine is actually down too. It's rare to get 4 barrels all lined up for changing. I could wait on 2 of them probably, but don't want to let them go right empty. I just grabbed group 2 and I brought it to the parlor so it can be milked, and I was about to start scraping, cleaning the groups, but the Juno, it drove against the door and off the ledge that we have at the back of the barn. I could give you guys a long, complicated explanation as to why this happened, but basically it's cold outside and you can't see what you're doing when you're dumping feed. You dump a big pile and it goes around the metal strip that's supposed to tell this thing where it's going. And yeah, just cold. Another thing. Another side effect of the cold weather. Gonna grab our bobcats before we start scraping. Pallet forks, chain, bring that Juno all the way back to its charging port. Got her rigged up. The charging station for this Juno is all the way at the front of the barn, so we're just gonna bring it all the way back there. It's pretty lost at this point. Luckily, the people at Juno, or Neline, sorry, knew this kind of thing would happen, so they hooked us up with a massive hook at the top of the Juno. Just lift it back to where it goes. It has been super reliable this year so far. This is human error, not robot error. Got her about a foot off the ground. Gotta be careful with this old girl. Alright, now we hook up our phone, drive this thing back to the charging dock. Okay, we got this Juno back to its charging port. I am gonna have to push up the feed with our skid steer and that angle blade, otherwise the same thing is gonna keep repeatedly happening. The Juno hasn't pushed up feed for a solid couple hours now, and the feed's so far over, it's never gonna catch up. On top of that, it is wet and slimy in this barn because of the humidity and the cold, so that thing's slipping. It's having a lot harder of a time pushing the feed over. It's never gonna get this feed pushed up in front of the cows anymore. So once we're done scraping this group, we're gonna grab that other skid steer and push up the feed. Finish scraping the group and let the cows back in. That Juno started going again, but I just paused it. We'll have to push the feed up when we're done milking. It took a lot of time to get that Juno back to where it had to be, so I was a little slow with scraping this afternoon. You can see all the cows from group 2, these are all already milked. They gotta make their way back to the barn. They're kind of backlogged right now. Finished milking, fed her, is cleaning the parlor and doing the filters. I got one cow that I gotta look at yet this evening, 1232. She's sick looking. She fell down in the holding area, unfortunately. And she had very little milk in her udder, 0.9 liters, so not even a full liter. And her eyes are kind of sunken into her head, so she looks dehydrated. And that's a very clear, common sign when a cow is sick. So this is our cow. Days in milk, 102. Interesting. She's been bred twice. Activity. This will tell me how recent it was. Okay, so she came in heat, and after that, she just tanked hard. That is crazy. Yeah, it looks like she came in heat, she was bred, and then it just straight downturn from there. That's pretty weird. First thing I'm gonna do is check for a tongue ulcer. That's my biggest suspicion, so we're gonna start there. So this doesn't look great, and I'm sure it's not the funnest thing for the cow. But trust me, if she has a tongue ulcer, 3 days after doing this, she's gonna feel a million times better, back to normal. Literally just squirt a bit of iodine on a towel. Usually I do like having a second person here to hold her head still. I don't have that person here right now. So we'll see how this goes. Give me a kiss. no tongue ulcer, so that's unfortunate. Definitely would have been the easiest thing, but she's good for tongue ulcer. Next thing we're going to do is check her temperature. Thermometer in the butt. Okay, so we also checked her temperature. It was about 37 degrees, which is normal. She was starting to get cold though on the outside, so I checked her manure, and this is what we found. This is not great at all. You see it's a little reddish, and that's because there's some blood in here. So she has internal bleeding. It is kind of black as well, which means it's probably before her intestines, so she's digesting the blood a little bit. So we're gonna give her what's called oxmin powder. We're gonna give her a double shot. So what we're basically gonna be trying to do for this girl is to line the inside of her stomach so that it quits bleeding, and it'll hopefully allow it to heal a little bit. So we're gonna grab a pail, and it's just pumping her stomach. We're gonna be pumping it straight in there. Okay, so we're gonna pump her stomach with the stuff I have in the pail here. It's just a hand pump. This hose goes all the way down to her stomach, and I was just smelling to make sure that it was in her stomach. So basically, if you smell some terrible smelling air come out of this hose, you know it's in the stomach. The last thing I'm gonna give to her is Medicam. This is a painkiller. She's very clearly not comfortable, so it's just gonna make her feel better, if anything. And she's not producing milk anyway, so we must well put some red bands around her and treat her with some extra help. Right on, we're gonna put her on the straw pack now, and hopefully she gets better.
Yeah, I get
Film
it.
creds.
Yeah. I better get out of the way.
That's a good idea. Well, that was it for today. Luckily, the weather is gonna break up a bit. I know when I'm uploading this video, this kind of cold weather front is gonna be right in the upper middle part of the US. I believe it's even gonna go down as low as Texas and make it cold. Obviously, it's not gonna be as cold as it is here in Texas, but it's gonna hit the US pretty hard when this video is uploaded, like on that day. So I'm sure some people watching this are dealing with the same cold front that we just went through. We're just a couple days ahead, and I wish you guys all the best. I'd also like to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, and I hope you guys have a good time for the holidays. So that's gonna be it for today's video though. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you guys in the next one.